Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime is Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blind Spot. Another great episode. I love this episode because obviously this is like the first official episode of them working together as a team again. It's kind of interesting because obviously the team always goes to different dynamics from season to season, but this was the biggest like dynamic change considering the fact is everyone was split up and now everyone's back in different positions. But overall the episode was about a satellite that crashed. This was a tattoo that Roman helped Kurt figure out, but Kurt's not telling anyone because I mean in his own way Roman's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this because I want to see the world burn, I'm actually trying to help you save the world. It's like we still don't know where Roman's loyalties, like not loyalties, where what this is all about, because he makes it almost seem like he wasn't the one. Like I said, like it's like, oh, Roman's the one to put the tattoos on her, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, we still don't know if like he's working for somebody, whether this is his sole project. I don't know if Roman seems like, not calling Roman an idiot, but Roman's always just been like the muscle. He's just been like the killer. So it's like, I don't see him crafting such a, like, because he follows orders, but then again, maybe that's what this season's supposed to be about him. You know, it's constantly he talked about in this episode. He's used to following orders and now he kind of has to step out on his own. So maybe that's what that's about. But maybe I get the feeling more so than anything, he's acting on someone else's orders. So even he doesn't 100% understand what the tattoos are about. Not unless it is that he has nothing to do with the tattoos. In fact, is that he knows who put the tattoos on Jane and he's just pretending like he knows what's going on just so he can make them think like, oh, you know, this is all part of my plan, when in actuality, it's not. I'm just kind of using you guys to do my own thing. I don't know. We'll see. That's obviously going to be a big mystery of this season. Like, you know, that could be a possibility, or maybe it really is. Like I said, there's so many possibilities, too early to really take for sure. But in this episode, the tattoo led to a satellite crashing. This satellite ends up basically being part of a large scale of like satellites that basically exist to kind of shield everywhere, like the US as well as its allies, from missiles. And basically the black box of one of those satellites falls in the hands of some bad people, like a group of mercenaries. And ultimately it seems like it's connected to North Korea, which is like how timely with this whole storyline, with the whole like thing with, you know, not trying to get all political, which is just like, with the nature of the show is like you can't kind of help but do it because it deals with the, you know, the T word, the big scary T word that I'm not saying for my own particular reasons why I won't say it. But nevertheless, so it's all about stopping that before, like the black box, before it gets into bad hands. I kind of had a feeling it was like some part of me was like, Marcy's a bad person, isn't she? Especially because Stuart gave her a compliment like, oh, I get the name, protect. Stat. It's like, oh, it's protecting us. It's like, it's such a good name. She's like, yeah, thanks. It's something I made. Like, I came up with it myself. I just had a feeling. I was like, Marcy's a bad guy. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not. Cause it was like, obviously the moment it was like Nikhil, I was like, it's Marcy. Interestingly enough, that actress plays, I think her character's name is Marcy as well on, Daredevil. She's kind of like Foggy's on and off girlfriend. That was just kind of interesting to me. I mean, didn't pan out for her in the end because she ended up getting killed, because it's like, oh, you helped us do this. Probably thought you were going to get paid. So I was like, why waste that time? We can just kill you and take you out. But obviously that being the main focus of the episode, figuring this whole situation out. But even then, that's like a small part of the overarching, like I said, the biggest part of this episode, which, like I said, it was almost like that part of the episode was like, we need a team something to do. Like, this is what they're dealing with. But the fact of the matter is, it's a small part of like the bigger plot of like the team working together again. Obviously Kurt probably not really used to taking orders. So to the point that like Kurt kept pushing like, we need to do this now. We need to do it now. While at the same time, Reed was kind of like, no, we're going to take it slow, which rightfully you're like, you can't help but agree with Reed, because it's like the last situation, oh, you're following the tattoos. The tattoos were basically meant to lead to the government falling apart, essentially, and new people stuff. So it was kind of like a huge coup to a certain degree. So it's kind of like, you know, you can understand why Reed's like, yeah, we were manipulated by the tattoos last time. We don't know what Roman's up to, so let's take it slow. But obviously, you know, listening to what Roman said without letting everyone know he heard it from Roman, Kurt's like, okay, we need to figure this out. And so many different dynamics in this episode. Once again, I feel so bad for Stuart, because it feels like Stuart's getting shit on by everyone. And Stuart says something, and everyone's like, okay, and moving on. Especially because, like, Patterson was chewing him out this episode. It's like, oh my God, you're focused on this. Focus on this. Why are you messing up everything? This isn't, and he's like, well, this isn't your lab anymore. It's my lab. It's my system. It's just kind of like, ow, poor Stewart. Because it's almost like every time Stewart says something, you almost have like Patterson be like, shut up. Okay, we got it. You're over explaining. Shut up, shut up. It's almost like that. And it's like, oh. And even Tasha talked to her about it. And she's like, what? No, me and Stuart, we got that type of relationship. We got that friendship that we hate each other thing. It's like, well, we should probably tell Stuart because he doesn't know. And even at one point, she's like, you're wasting computers resources to look at that tattoo you're trying to figure. He's like, oh, no, I'm sorry. She's like, you see the situation we're in right now. He's like, I'm sorry. I literally thought I'd work on this because I'm trying to stay out your way. But it's kind of like she wants him to stay out of her way anyway. So it's just, it gets poor Stuart just couldn't win. And then obviously, I'll just go ahead and skip to it. Sadly, Stewart is dead at the end of the episode, which obviously, well, I'll go ahead and bring it up. It's actually kind of interesting because it seems like it's very reminiscent of David. If you remember, I had to pause because I remember him being in something else, but I can't remember what it was. There was something I saw that actor who plays David in something else, but I can't remember what. Right, I remember. Well, it's not important. But it's kind of a similar situation that happened to David. I was thinking about something, but then I just let it go. It's like, because there's a weird thing associated with this show about him playing a character in that like I don't know where that stands. So I'm like, I'm not going to mention that in particular, just because it was kind of a weird thing. But nevertheless, David kind of died under similar circumstances. He got killed because he tried to figure out a tattoo. So it's like. Almost like history repeating itself, and for the person to find him to be Patterson too, that's got to be like a double, just like it's like because it's a reminder of that. Like, oh, he was not unless it was something else entirely, but it seems like he was diving deeper into a tattoo because it was like to him it bugged him because it seems so familiar. So I'm curious to see what happens with Patterson in the next episode in that regards. But also we learned more about Jane, what she was up to in a little bit of her time. The fact of the matter is she was doing K&R, or kidnapping, ransoming. I was like, wait, she's kidnapping and ransoming people? Oh, she's helping with those situations. Okay, because she ends up meeting up with the dude in this episode who ends up kind of being the mercenaries that cross paths with. His name is Dwyer Lee, and which kind of pisses Kurt off a little bit because it's more of the explanation of like he doesn't know who Jane really is. It's like so much has changed, and it's like, oh, she was off doing something like that. Which to her, she's like, I needed to do something, and it's like I have these skills, I might as well use them for good. So I wasn't expecting us to really find out so much about Jane in that instant like that. Like, even the whole passports and money, she reveals that to Kurt at the end of the episode. I was like, wasn't expecting that. I thought that was kind of your runaway thing, but it's just because you didn't want to admit to Kurt, like, yeah, I got some money stashed away. It's more of a rainy day situation, but those are passports probably all connected to all the different places she's been to. So I thought, I was like, oh, maybe that's her runaway thing, but maybe that was kind of the whole point to make it look like that. But it's just because she didn't want to, like, throw it all in Kurt because, like, everyone's trying to find that new normal, with things. So. Especially between Reed and Tasha, that definitely gets complicated because like even she talked to Patterson about like things kind of being weird with Reed, the way he's kind of bossing people around and not really like he's taking his job really seriously. And it's something Hearst kind of brought up to him. It's like, dude, you're taking your job, you're trying to overcompensate. Like your team's back together again. You still haven't found that right 100%. Like your flow hasn't come 100% back, but now you're trying to overcompensate for stuff. So it's kind of like, hey, you've been doing a great job before now, so run the team like you've been running things before now. It's just like, this is the best team, so it makes you wonder now that I think about it. It's like what team, who was B team while everything was going down, because Weller spent most of his money and time looking for Jane. Jane was off on her own, interestingly enough becoming vegan, which is, I mean, that is a small thing, but it's to represent a bigger issue of like they really don't know each other anymore. And Tasha was working with the CIA, which last episode we found out was a big issue for them. So in particular for Reed, which we interestingly enough find out that he has a new girlfriend who it's going to bother the crap out of me. I can't remember the actress's name and I feel so bad, but she's from Royal Pains. I want to say her character's name was it Divya? I can't remember. It's been such a long time since I've seen Royal Pains, which reminds me I still need to go back and watch Royal Pains. I feel like I mentioned that in one podcast too. I don't remember what particular podcast in general, but it doesn't matter. I still need to go ahead and check that, rewatch all of that. I think it's still on Netflix. Last time I checked it was, but nevertheless, that's beside the point as well. It's kind of funny, little quick thing. They referenced Stranger Things last season because I think it was like an episode dealing with Rich, who's Rich is back in this, which he's not in this episode, but they do make it seem, like I said, I am curious to see if he's around a lot more, whether he becomes like a series regular from this point on in time, which is kind of interesting. I guess now that Stewart's kind of out of the picture, that's kind of room for Rich to come back into the story of being like, oh yeah, I'm here more prominent and more often. Besides, there's a whole him and Patterson thing too, so whatever they've got up their sleeve. So, but another big part of this episode too, and that kind of took me by surprise, was the fact is that you had Roman going to like a PTSD meeting and stuff like that, talking very vaguely about things. But it's like, oh, he opens up to this dude named Tom. They become friends and everything. He actually brought up something I thought was very fascinating. I kind of brought it up earlier, the whole aspect of him like not being good at like being on his own because he's used to having other people, you know. Even he admits that Shepard was a monster. He's like, yeah, we were brought up by a monster. So, because, you know, his main reason for working with Shepard wasn't because of it was mainly because it was his way of compensating, his way of being, like, rebelling against Jane. It's like, oh, Jane wants me to be a good guy, but it's like, oh, the reason why I'm like this is because of you. And, like, it just fed the monster that was already deep inside that he was trying so hard to fight, which is so sad when you think about it. Just like, Roman was a good guy, like, during the second half of season 2, but just, well, like the back half of season 2, and just to have that all kind of thrown away just a moment is, like I said, we still, it seems like the very least, like most, if not all of his memories have returned, which is kind of interesting. Like I said, we haven't even tackled that about Jane, because even back then, I don't think any point in season 2 did every memory of Jane's come back, because I think that was still the thing of like, there's no guarantee that things will ever kind of go 100% back. But nevertheless, you had, him opening up about the thing aspect of being like, oh man, like he's like, there's some moments he misses his sister and wants her back, and other moments he can't stand her and wants to kill her. And it's like, it's so interesting to see his character conflicted like that. He makes it seem like he doesn't care about Jane. It's like, oh, it's all about a game. But it's like, but the reason why he's doing all this too is because there is a part of him that still loves her, because Jane has been his rock for so long, for after everything they've been through, everything with Shepard, everything before Shepard. It's like the only reason why he went along with everything was because, oh, well, I can do whatever Shepard wants me to because I have Eve on my side. But then she betrayed him, and it's just, it's very interesting to see him conflicted. I'm so interested to see what they do with him this season in that whole regard. And that's just a little side note thing that was kind of popping in my head. I also thought it was kind of interesting that when Patterson was talking to Nikhil as like, okay, you can help us with Marcy. He's like, I have no idea where she's going. It's like, well, the fact of the matter is you worked her with all these years. Beyond all the bad stuff, being a bad guy secretly and all that stuff, you still know her. So you saw, like, I think Kurt kind of look at somebody in, on the other side of things, and it's like, you can tell she was referencing Borden, which I'm so curious where she stands in all that regard too. Like, the fact of the matter is that, because that was a big thing for her last season, dealing with that. I mean, to be fair, she ended up talking to what was that doctor who was helping out Roman last season? Like she was kind of like, Patterson was kind of talking to her a little bit. So I don't know if she's fully okay, like whether that, you know, once again, like it'll be interesting to see like whether any of that's like 100% still with her or not, or she kind of moved past it, you know, where there's still like residual things. I mean, the way she was having that conversation, it does seem like she did it without, you know, breaking down or getting mad. It was just kind of like, okay, it happened, and it's something that I can learn from, that I can help you learn from it. So it was kind of an interesting thing. I also appreciate the whole fact of her being like, oh yeah, we created an app that was like at the top for like 7 weeks, and then someone else made a clone copy of that game with a different title or something like that. How like into it she is and stuff. Which I also find fascinating is like, I guess that is true then. Like, is that not just a cover story, or is that something you and Rich came up together as a cover story, or was that something you were really working on while you were really doing whatever you really were doing with Rich? Which, once again, I'm so interested to find out like where everything stands. I talked about it briefly, but the whole Reed situation about having a new girlfriend in his life named Megan, that's a little awkward considering the whole him and Tasha thing. But then again, Tasha went to the CIA. Didn't really talk to Reed about it, so as we heard last episode, he ghosted her. So just, I guess, his way of moving on, because I guess in his mind, he never thought they'd cross paths again. So that's definitely awkward, which is sad, because there was like the whole like, oh, you're my best friend, and now it's like, oh, we have feelings for each other because, wait, you kissed me, but now I'm like, okay, no, it's like, you know, try to move past it, but then it was obvious like she actually had feelings for him, and now it's like, oh, you have a girlfriend, and it's just like, phew. Now they're having like beers and having dinner together, which is super awkward. I mean, I guess because it's understandable too, because Reed is trying to keep his, because Megan's like, oh, I know nothing about like any of Ed's like friends. It's like, well, the last relationship he was in was with Weller's sister. That was a super awkward thing. She's not going to pop up in the story anymore, is she? Because I forgot she moved away and everything last season, too. That was kind of the whole thing between her and Ed. Because he wouldn't open up to her about a lot of things that were going down. Wait, that wasn't last season, was it? Or was that season 1? No, they were dating in season 1, but I think it crossed. I'm trying to remember. I think that was last season, wasn't it? God, I'm like a lot of that's blurring together in my head. I'm trying to remember how that went down. But nevertheless, subsequently since then, I'm sure he's trying his best to keep my work life and his personal life separate because everyone else kind of has their lives blurred together, especially like Kurt, especially him and Jane, that there is no separation between them. And I'm such a fucking idiot because I forgot to talk about the thing I wanted to talk about at the very beginning. Is the fact is we got the new intro, opening, title card, whatever you want to call it. Because I brought it up last episode how there wasn't one, but in this one, obviously it's kind of similar. The differences are like the new tattoos over Jane's old tattoos, and plus where it used to only be like a background image of Kurt, it's now one of Kurt and Jane, which I thought was kind of neat. So I always like it when like new things change like that in openings and stuff like that. It's like a lot of it stays the same, but obviously new imagery representing like the new situation. So. Also, kind of quick thing about Reed, you also know he's no idiot at running this whole operation because the moment things happen, he's like, oh yeah, you figured out a tattoo, huh? It's like, is there anything I need to know about? He's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm just curious. Is there anything I need to know about? It's like, he quickly picked up on it. He's like, yeah, Kurt's like, oh yeah, I figured out, I'm more than just a pretty face, which I also love that little quick rule at the end. And it's just like, yeah, but we're a damn good team. Reed was like, yeah. And Tasha's like, I drank to that. And Reed's like, no, you won't, because there's no more drinking in this lab. So new rule, but and just look on her face like from a smile to like, wait, what? Because that was kind of like their celebratory thing of like, hey, let's drink together. Yeah, we just solved things, yeah. And then it's just like Reed just basically shits on that tradition that they had. I thought that was just kind of interesting. So, like I said, overall great episode. Like I said, I kind of threw the main plot out the way. I mean, everything else is kind of main plot, but it's just like, to me, those were the bigger focus of the episode. At least it's what I typically latched onto more. So I'm very curious to see what this whole thing with Stewart getting killed is about. Sure, it's about the tattoo, which is so sad, especially because Patterson was calling him to apologize for it and everything. Like, I was like, we're kind of a little dickish towards you, so I do apologize. It's like, didn't get to make up. It's sad. And also, we do have Roman, he ended up killing Tom and adopting his personality, like wearing his glasses and trying to speak like him. Because it's like you think it was an accident, me going there all the time. I said exact words that I knew would trigger you because he knew his best friend from his military days would die, send him the same message before he killed himself. But it's like, it's not just Tom's money he was after Tom in particular. So maybe it's something in Tom's. Well, I mean, because even he was like, if it was just about your money, I could have just taken that. So maybe he's going to change all of Tom's identification to match himself in regards of getting access to something. Maybe it's whatever Tom was up to or connected to. But that's the thing. I'm like, how would you fool anyone considering the fact is that if it was something like that, I feel like people would know Tom's face, not unless it's a lot of stuff that was done like non-face-to-face. So it seems like the money might be one aspect of it, but like I said, it seems like there's more to it. What exactly? I don't know. It gets even more depressing when you think about the fact is Roman's like, yeah, you're actually kind of the first friend I've ever had, because outside of Jane, he has no one except like, it's kind of something I brought up last season too, is like that dream that Jane had about like, oh, her and Kurt and Roman sitting at a table. It's like, oh, her entire family's together. There was almost a little bit of that because you saw Roman and Kurt bonding, like them getting closer, which for Jane was like, oh my God, like the man I have feelings for, as well as my brother. It's just like, oh, like it's all coming up roses, but sadly didn't work out like that. So, but outside of that, he never really had anyone. So he was able to open up and talk to someone for real. I mean, the reason why he was able to be so candid was simply because he was going to kill you anyway. So I don't know, it's kind of sad. Like, even he was like, yeah, I'll make sure it doesn't hurt, So, because Roman's kind of never been like the sympathetic type when it comes to this type of situation. Just like, yeah, I need to get the job done. I need to get the job done. So, but this time he actually legitimately seemed like he felt bad. But once again, if last season taught us anything, Roman's not even sure if he feels bad most of the times, because that was something the doctor last season was talking about too, like faking empathy. that he's just so badly broken that there's no going back to normal for him. And with the way things played out, kind of seems like she might have been right. So very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us, or for well as the rest of the season. We've got like a long road ahead of us when it comes to this season. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.